So let's begin today's session. Today we'll discuss about the F1 visa applications. How do you attend the interview? What preparation you need to do, and all that. Uh, I have just put in a small presentation. In case you have any questions, just interrupt me while the session is going on, and you can ask your questions or you can ask them later. Anything is fine. Um, now, some of you are in the, at various stages in the whole application process, in the visa application process. Some have already booked their dates. There were some dates that opened yesterday afternoon. Some students got it, some didn't. Those who got it, good. Those who didn't, don't worry about it. The dates will keep opening in the next coming weeks. And there will be a time when there will be a lot of dates available and there will be no takers for that also. So that also happens, but that really happens by the time it's end of June, early July. Some of you are still in the process of applying for your I-20s and all that, so absolutely nothing to worry about whether you're early, late, and all that. If you did get a date, good. If you didn't, or if you missed yesterday's dates, you will definitely get it in the coming weeks. Okay. Coming to the visa application, 1 minute. Let me just, you know, cool. Right. So, as far as your visa applications go, this is the process to actually apply for the visa. Most of you might be aware of this process. First, you start off by filling up the DS-160 form. After that, you log into the US Travel Docs website, create an account there, and pay the visa application fee. You can pay either cash, online, credit cards, UPI has also been enabled there now. And then you go on the same website. Once you pay after 24 hours, I think your payment gets accepted, and then you can book the OFC and visa dates. Now you will have to book both your dates in a single session, in the sense you can't just, sometimes what happens is when you try, the first date that you see is the OFC date, but sometimes when you, by the time you book an OFC date, if then in the next page, when it takes you to the visa date calendar, if the visa date is not available, it will not let you book. Your OFC date doesn't get booked. So until both the dates, you select both the dates and press the submit button, your visa dates will not get booked. So you can't book only the OFC date and then maybe come back later and book the visa date. That is not possible. If you select an OFC date and then on the next screen, if a visa date is not available, the OFC date doesn't get booked. You will have to start all over again. If you try booking or clicking too many times back and forth on the visa calendar, your account gets locked in some cases. Sometimes it will give you very weird errors because there are a lot of people trying to book visa dates, and sometimes the server gets hanged. So whatever, in case you get all these errors, don't worry. Keep maybe just log out and log in after maybe a day or so, and you will be able to log in. If within, even after 48 hours or maybe 72 hours, you're still not able to log in to your account for any reason, then you will have to email the support service or the customer service, and they will unlock your account for you. But generally, you may not have to do that. By within a day, within 24 hours, your account gets unlocked. So, but just as a precaution for those who haven't booked their visa dates, once you see a OFC calendar, after you have paid the application fee the next day or anytime you log in, if you see an OFC calendar and you see dates available, just click on whichever is the available date. Don't keep going back and forth. Don't go back. Say you select the date, you go ahead. Don't come back again to see if there is another date available. Just keep going ahead. Don't waste too much time on that page. If you just let that page stay idle for a minute or so, um, sometimes your account gets locked even there. So the moment you see a date, click on the date, press the submit button, go to the next page, see which dates are available. Uh, if there are only 2 or 3 dates available, just pick any one that you feel you would be available to attend that visa interview on. Don't try to think too much. Don't try to waste too much time there, and don't go back and forth. Otherwise, sometimes your account gets locked. As I said, even if your account gets locked, there is nothing much you can do about it and nothing to really worry about. The next day it gets unlocked. Sometimes there are server errors because of which you might just be logged out. Try logging in again. If it still doesn't allow you, then just try logging in the next day. That is the only way. I mean, the site is not very, I would say, user friendly or very, I mean, efficient also to handle the kind of load that it is supposed to. So sometimes, even because of that, too many students logging in, the site just logs out few people. But anyway, you just have to live with that. And the last thing is that payment of your service fees. Don't forget to do this. It is not required to book an visa appointment, but before your visa interview, you will have to make that payment of $350. Now, for those who have finalized your university and you know that, okay, yes, this is the final university I'm going to, just go ahead and pay that. There's no point in delaying the whole visa service fee payment, and then, I mean, you just run the risk of forgetting paying it and attending a visa interview and being sent back, or not being able to attend the visa interview because you forgot to pay the service fee. So don't forget to pay that. That's the only thing. You can pay the service fee anytime till 1 day at least before your visa date, which is your not the OFC date but the visa appointment date. So if your visa appointment date is on 10th June, so anytime till 9th of June, you can actually pay the service fee. But don't just keep it for the last moment. Just if you're finalized your university, just go ahead and pay that also. Okay. Any doubts so far in the application process or anything on the? I mean, you have any questions related to the application visa application process? Yeah, Madhuri.
Hi, sir. Good morning. I just wanted to ask: is there any minimum? Is there any maximum number of login attempts in the span
There's
of
no
24 hours?
maximum number of login attempts. I mean, I don't know how the site calculates this minimum maximum number of login attempts. So it's not just the login attempts, right? So sometimes if you just log in, or sometimes if you are linger on that site, you are logged in only once. But even if you just keep lingering on the site without doing anything, it logs you out. Sometimes, if like I said, if you try on the same visa calendar, if you go back and forth too many times, maybe 3 or 4 times, it then logs you out and tells you that your account has been locked. So there is no specific. The visa counselor does not tell you what logic they follow or what algorithm they follow to decide when to lock you out. So that's why I'm saying. Um, but logging into the visa site 2 or 3 times a day is absolutely fine. So don't. It doesn't really cause any issues. Um, but like I said, don't log in every hour. If you can't find a date now, you can do that. You can just maybe check once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening, kind of thing. But once you log in and you see a date, book it immediately. That is what I would suggest.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So moving on to the next part of it, the most important thing is how does a visa officer, um, evaluate your application. I mean, these are basically the two main points on which the visa officer is going to make a decision. So the visa is not, again, let me emphasize this once again, the visa is not going to be based on any documents. The visa officer is not going to check any of your documents, of course, apart from the mandatory documents, which is only basically your passport and I-20. And I mean, the visa officer will only check these two. The other things, like whether you have paid the service fee or whether you have come on the day of your appointment. I mean, the visa appointment letter, whether you come at the right time and all that. That is checked at the entrance itself. So once everything is clear, only then they let you in. Like say if your appointment is on the 15th of June and you end up there on the 14th, they will not let you inside. So those all things, whether you have submitted the DS 160, whether the name on your DS 160 is as on your passport and all that, that checking is done at the OFC. So all those things set apart, the visa officer to make a decision is only going to check your passport and I-20, and those are the basic things that they will be looking at. The visa officer is not going to look at your financial documents or your academic documents or any specific document apart from the passport and I-20. The visa officer is only going to ask you questions and make a decision on the basis of your answers. And when I say basis of your answers, so again, there are no right or wrong answers. They just want to know whether how clear you are in your thought process, and whether you are honest in your answers. So there is no right answer to any specific question. Whatever you want to tell the visa officer is absolutely fine, as long as you are honest about it. And as a student, like, I mean, think of it as a student. There are only 2 points that the visa officer is looking at. Is, since you are going there for education, obviously, when I say being honest, in the sense, you can't honestly tell the visa officer that I'm not at all interested in education, I'm going there only because it's USA. That might be your absolutely honest answer, but that is something that you should not be telling the visa officer. The visa officer is looking at clarity in terms of your education plan. Since you all are applying for a student visa, the underlying assumption is that you are interested in academics. That is, you are interested in getting yourself educated. And that is why the visa officer is going to ask you questions related to your education, that is your master's education, in the sense, why do you want to pursue your master's? And they want to understand whether you have really thought about those aspects. Why have you decided on the universities that you had applied to, or whether which the university that you have finally decided to go to, and eventually what do you plan to study and what do you plan to do with the degree that you get. And then the second part, that they would be actually be asking you questions, which is not the most important part. The first part is very important, so be really prepared for the first part of it in terms of your education plans. But they would also be asking you in most cases on how do you plan to pay for your education. Okay, so this is something that they would be asking you. Again, here they will not be looking at documents, so don't bother collecting documents or worrying about what documents I need to carry. You just try to understand what the visa officer is going to ask and what are you going to answer. Coming to the first part of it, right? Most likely the visa officer is going to ask you one or two or maybe more questions out of these five. Uh, so it could be, and it doesn't matter what the question is. It depends on the timing of the question, or rather, the sequence of the question, that is important. So there is no specific answer why masters, or why do you want to do a, why specifically this university, or why do you want to go to the USA, kind of thing, right? So ideally, the main aspect of the reason for conducting the visa interview is to kind of screen students and understand why do they want to go to the US. Because to give you some a background of why the visa US conducts a visa interview is basically, once you actually enter the US and once you actually go to the US, it is kind of very difficult for anybody or the US government to track your presence. In the sense, say, there have been cases in the past. I mean, nowadays nobody does that. Very few students indulge in such things. But in the 90s, 2000s, or even the 80s and all that, a lot of people used to go to the US on student visa but never attend the university. In the sense, you go to the, because the US visa is a long term visa, so you go there, you get admitted to some college, you go there, and then eventually you don't attend the university, or you drop out from the university. All those things used to happen. And then you start working, the students used to start working illegally, at some, I mean, you work for cash like any other illegal immigrant there. And like it or not, fortunately or unfortunately, US had rules where you could eventually uh, convert to a legal immigrant. If you probably managed to stay there for 10-15 years, you could apply for legal immigration in that country. And otherwise it was not very easy for the US government to catch you. So that's the reason why they started conducting interviews, where the whole idea is to screen students and only let students who are genuinely interested in academics enter the US on a student visa. I mean, that is the whole intent, right? So that is why the visa officer is going to ask you, why do you want to pursue your masters, why do you want to go to this university. Again, they might sometimes specifically ask you, why do you want to go to the US and why not any other country, or what do you plan to do after you finish your masters. And some questions related to your applications, in terms of how many universities did you apply to, how did you go about selecting your universities. If you are changing fields, like say you probably are a student who did his or her bachelor's, say in say computer science, but now you're going in for an analytics program or something similar. I mean anything. So why do you want to do that? Why do you want to change from a computer science to a maybe an analytics course, or why do you want to change from an electronics to a computer science degree? So depending on what your applications are and why do you whatever has been your background, and if there is a drastic change in the degree that you are currently applying to, the visa officer would ask you. So this is how the visa interview would go. These are the most important questions that you should be aware of. And when it comes to answers, right, you should give very honest answers and very personalized answers. Now, I'm emphasizing on the word personalized in the sense when I say personalized answer and not a generic answer, it means that if you listen, so when you're preparing for your answer, just think of it. If okay, you listen to your answer once, and if you say that okay, a friend of yours or someone else can just pick up that answer and that answer would fit that other person also perfectly well, then that would be a generalized answer. For example, if you say, I want to, why do you want to pursue your masters, right? So I want to pursue my masters to upgrade my skills and knowledge, and I want to gain advanced knowledge because I feel that that will help me in my long-term career. This is a very generic answer, right? Just a moment. So, okay. A more personalized answer would be telling them what exactly, where, why do you want to pursue masters? Would be, telling them that okay, I want to pursue my masters in data science because I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. I've been working as a data analyst in so and so company for the past 2 years, and I want to build my skills in say so and so areas. You mentioned the areas that you want to build your knowledge and skills in, and post my masters, if you want to talk about that, I want to advance my career to a data scientist, or I want to get into maybe XYZ kind of roles, and that is why I want to pursue my masters. So try to bring in personal elements into the answer. In the sense, don't give very generic answers. Try to tell them try to correlate your reasons for doing your masters with either your education, with your work, or with your future career goals, with the skills you want to develop. And I mean, make it specific. I mean, talk about what skills you want to develop, talk about what experience you have. Because giving a very straightforward, generic answer saying that because it will help me enhance my career, I mean, everybody can say that, right? But when you say enhance your career, in what aspects, what skills would you like to develop? So be specific about it. Again, there is no right or wrong answer here, but the visa officer wants to listen to personalized answers and not something which is very generic. So keep that in mind. When you're preparing for your answers, be very specific to make the answer specific to your profile. Again, why this university? Don't give generic answers because this university provides excellent research opportunities or has great faculty kind of thing. If you say that, you specifically mention what kind of research at the university do you like, uh, which faculty profile do you like, what subjects they teach, and why do you think you would like to take courses under them. Or if you say that okay, they offer a wide range of subjects or specializations, you mention which specializations are you interested in. Again, now those answers should also align with the answers that you've given earlier. Like you can't talk about uh, sometimes students talk about research in one area, your career goals in another area. So don't make those kind of mistakes. If you say that the reason why you want to pursue a master's in data science is because maybe you are interested in AI and machine learning, or learning about applications of machine learning in finance, and then you talk about research of data science in the medical field, that may not really make much sense. So try to correlate your answers. I mean, your entire storyline should talk about one single story and not run in all directions. You talk about one research and then you talk about some specialization which does not really correlate to that research. That could actually cause problems. So don't try to confuse the visa officer and don't try to confuse yourself. Again, don't try to complicate your answers too much. I mean, you don't have to get too much in the depth in terms of research or in terms of faculty profiles and all that. Just mentioning the topics of research is absolutely fine. Just mentioning the courses that you want to take at the university is fine. So a good way to prepare for the visa interview would be to look at the university website thoroughly. Maybe if you have some students, if you know some students who are currently there, or you are in touch with someone, talk to them, understand how the master's degree progresses. And this will not just help you in terms of the visa, but also in terms of planning your education. I mean, whichever degree you're going for, if you're going for a PhD program or a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, I mean, all this, going to be the same thing. So it will, I mean, once you know that, okay, once I go there, okay, for the first semester, these are the courses that I intend to take. Uh, for the next semester, I would like to take, these following subjects. You don't have to, I mean, actually do that. I mean, I'm not saying that that is exactly what you should be doing, but from a preparation point of view, you might have certain ideas. Okay, this is what I want to do in the first semester, this is what I want to do in the second semester. These, maybe I am interested in research, I'm not interested in research. All those things you can probably make a mental note of it. It might also help you plan things better. You can talk to students, get information on the university's website on what specializations are being offered. So the more thorough you are about the whole process, it will just make it easier for you to attend the interview and answer the questions with a lot more confidence. So the key here is to, not by heart the answers, but to know your career plan. I mean, know your future master's plan, as well as what do you plan to do after your master's. Again, whatever you say now is not something that you have to do, or it is not something that just because you told the visa officer you should be doing that. Your plans can genuinely change. But right now, I'm saying that you don't try to just uh, make up answers just to please the visa officer. You make answers based on what your actual plans are, and you tell that to the visa officer. Okay. So again, there are no right or wrongs here in terms of what specializations you would like to do. Whether you should tell the visa officer about doing research, not doing research. Whatever is your plan, tell them. Okay. And another thing that I would like to emphasize here is that don't try to prepare as if you are preparing for an exam, or a viva kind of a thing. The ones that you have in college, you should be preparing as if it's going to be a very specific, I mean, a very more like a general discussion, what you call, like, typically known as, coffee table discussion. Like, if someone in your family, or maybe a friend, kind of just asks you, why do you want to do a master's, why have you decided to this university, uh, the kind of answers that you would give, those are the kind of answers that you should be giving the visa officer, as if it's a more one-to-one casual discussion. uh, there are so don't fall into traps, like, some you will read on several websites, that you keep your answers short, you keep your answers long, you speak to the point. Don't try to be really bogged down by all these factors. It doesn't matter how much time you speak. You can speak for 30 seconds. If the answer is needs 30 seconds to speak, you keep speak for 30 seconds. If you want to talk for 3 minutes, you talk for 3 minutes, right? There is no right or wrong here. Again, depending on the question, if they ask you, your answer should be, um, you know should not necessarily be, what I'm saying is, your answer should not be timed. Your answer should be dependent on the question, and if you question really needs you to speak for 2-3 minutes, you can definitely do that. If it's something that you just 2 or 3 words are enough to answer the question, uh, that is also absolutely fine. So use your discretion. But many times what happens is, you will read a lot of tips and guidelines on the visa interview, which say that you should keep your answer short, you should speak not more than 10 seconds. Now when you try to you know put all these thoughts in your head, right, and you're trying to answer something, you will always be very conscious that, okay, am I speaking too much, am I speaking too less, should I stop now or should I continue? Those thoughts will always create a lot of disruptions, and you will not be able to answer properly. So don't go fall into all those traps. Just be your normal self and answer honestly. Any questions so far on these points? Because if you have more questions, I think it will be easier for me to answer. So any questions, doubts? Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand, Madhuri. Just start asking.
Uh, yes, sir. So my question is, if the visa officer asks, what are my plans after masters?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Good.
I'm going into industrial engineering. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Okay.
Yeah.
So can I tell something like, I mean, I actually have a plan of building up something after coming back to India in the field
You
of supply chain. In
you
the
have
field
a
of,
plan of doing what?
I actually have a plan of building up something like
Okay.
something related to logistics and stuff. So that's why I wanna go into industrial engineering field. So can I talk about that thing?
Yeah,
If
you
you
can
ask.
talk about that. See now, okay, let's discuss that part very much in detail. Mm, Plans after masters. One of the most what do you say? One of the most scary questions according to students, right? Because there is this whole notion that you should never tell the visa officer that you intend to work in the US, and most of you want to work in the US. In fact, not most, all of you want to work in the US, and you should also, right? Now, there are two aspects to this whole discussion on whether it is okay to work in the US or it is not okay to work in the US. And here's my view on that. There are you need to understand that working in the US, as long as you do it in the legal way, is absolutely fine. So you first, that is first thing that you need to understand. Now, any visa, I mean, probably the not any visa, but your student visa, just to give you an idea, comes under the non-immigrant category. And when I mean non-immigrant category, it means that it is a temporary visa. It is given to you for a specific purpose and for a specific duration. In the sense, it is not something that I mean, it is given with you with the intent that, okay, you go study and then come back, right? It is not given with the intent like a immigrant visa. An immigrant visa is where which lets you immigrate to that country. Immigrant visa is permanent in the sense, if you decide to stay in that country permanently for the rest of your life, the immigrant visa will allow you to do that. But any visa that comes under the non-immigrant category, which and the student visa is a non-immigrant visa, including your H1 visas and L1 visas, they are all non-immigrant visas because they come with a specific time duration. In the sense, you have to finish your the purpose of the student visa is to go study and come back. Now, the student visa has a built-in component known as the OPT. The OPT is not a separate visa, but it is a part of the student visa. OPT is optional practical training, which lets you work in the US for 1 year, or basically get gives you the opportunity to apply. I mean, to put it in very proper work terms, it gives you the opportunity to apply your learning in the industry for up to 1 year, after which that visa actually ends. Some years back, the US introduced something called as a STEM extension for the OPT, which says that your OPT is 1 year for all masters. After you finish your masters, by the end of the first year, if you are working on the OPT, and if your OPT ideally, I mean, if your degree is a STEM degree, which is a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you can apply for an extension on the OPT for another 2 years, which effectively gives you 3 years to work in the US. Now, beyond that, if you want to work in the US, ideally your employer should apply for a H1 visa for you. But anyway, let's not get into the H1 part. But on the student visa, there is a provision that is being made by the US government to work in the US uh, for up to 1 year to begin with, and then you can extend it by another 2 years. Now, there are certain things that you should know about both the CPT and the OPT. The CPT is a provision that the F1 visa gives you to do an internship in between your course. That is, after you finish 2 semesters of your coursework, you are allowed to apply for a CPT, which is given to you by the university only, which lets you do a internship in the summer. And the OPT is given to you by the US government. You have to apply for it again. It doesn't come default. So if you decide that, because that's why it's called optional practical training. It's not mandatory practical training. It's not required by the degree. You will get your degree, but if you decide to work in the US for a year, you are allowed to do that. Now, again, there is something very important that you should know about both the CPT and OPT. the CPT and OPT are not open work permits in the sense, or it says there is an underlying rule for the CPT and OPT that the work that you do on the CPT and OPT should be in line with the degree that you are studying. That, for example, if you are studying a degree like Madhuri, if you're studying a degree in industrial engineering, you can't work in the hospitality industry as a maybe manager at the front desk of a hotel, or maybe you can't work as a chef in a restaurant, right? So when you say that okay, you are not allowed to work in the US, that is true because you are not given open work permits. There are some visas that grant you open work permits, right? Like for instance, an L2 visa, it will grant you an open work permit. In the sense that you will get a EAD card which can let you do any work in the US, right? You can work maybe at a restaurant as a waiter, or you can work as the CEO of a company also. There are no restrictions on those open work permits on the kind of work you do, and any employer can pay you. But on the CPT and OPT, there are restrictions that you should work if you decide to work. First of all, those are both optional things. If you decide to use those CPT and OPT, it should be in an area in which you have a master's degree, or if it's a bachelor's degree, it's a bachelor's degree. If it's a PhD, it's a PhD. So basically, in the line in which you study. Now, the mistake that students make is that when you tell that okay, yes, I will work in the US, it is like telling that you will desperately seek employment. So rather, when you frame your answers, you should tell the visa officer that what are your plans after masters. Now, first thing, let's divide that part into step by step thing. First thing, when you say what are your plans after masters, and this applies to everybody here, not just Madhurya. See, after you finish your masters, most of you might have plans of taking up a job. Um, at this moment, let us remove the location from the picture in the sense all of you want a job, and when I ask you what kind of a job you want, you would have certain ideas on the kind of employment that you would be looking for, right? Say Madhurya is doing his bachelor's in sorry master's in industrial engineering. Someone here might be doing a master's in computer science, someone would be a mechanical engineering, someone would be business analytics, someone would be doing an economics or health science kind of thing, right? So after you finish this, forget that. I mean, forget the location part of it. But what kind of a job you would want? Ideally, if location was not a constraint, right? And all said and done, it is because for any country that you go to, you would probably you would need a visa to go there. But assuming that location was not a constraint, and you had the option of, and if salaries were equal all around the world, what kind of a job would you like to do, right? So you have to be really thorough in telling the visa officer is what kind of a career would you want after you finish your masters. Don't My recommendation here is don't talk about the location, right? And it is obviously the mistake that students make is that they say that what do you plan to do after masters. You Most students or most people will tell you, your friends, some other counselors, I mean, so far so-called influencers on YouTube, they will all tell you you should say that I'll come back to India. Okay, now that is a very incomplete answer. Okay, you come back to India and do what, right? You don't want to. It's not that you want to come back to India, and then sometimes it gets even more worse because the visa officer would then ask, why would you want to come back to India? And then students say that because I have family here and all that, or I have my parents here, I have my family here, and those kind of reasonings that they give very scripted answers like because I have ties to I want to I have good ties with my home country, talking about your love for your country, your family, all those things. And that is where then the whole interview starts getting a little complicated because you're lying, and the visa officer knows you're lying. So to answer that question, what do you plan to do in terms of after your masters, rather than starting with where do you want to be after your masters, talk about the kind of job that you would want to look for, or the kind of career that you would want to look for. If you want to come back and start your own company, so ideally the intent is okay, I want to start my own company. I want to take up a job. Most of you would take up a job. in realistic. And you should also. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, of course, I'm not saying that you should not start your own company immediately after, but ideally, given the kind of scenario you are in terms of the money that you'll be spending on your masters, as well as the experience levels that you have currently, maybe working for 1 or 2 years would make more sense before you start your masters. But again, before you start your own business. But again, that's individually up to you. But for most of you, since you would want to take up a job, you talk about the kind of career that you want after your masters. So if you can say that, okay, I want to work as a maybe something in the health analytics domain, or I want to work in say AI, or I want to work in the industrial manufacturing sector, or I want to work in the automobile industry, I want to work on in say working on economic policies kind of thing. So a little research on the kind of opportunities that you would typically get after your masters would always help, right? So you should be aware of, okay, what kind of jobs that you can get after the masters. Obviously nobody is going to hire you as a CEO of the company, however great you do and however great your university is after your masters. So don't talk about goals which are too lofty, uh, or don't say that I want to become maybe the next CEO of Google kind of thing. Don't go up to that. I mean, yeah, maybe 20 years later you might become, but not immediately after your master. So be realistic. So talk in terms of what kind of a job that you would like to do. If the visa officer then asks you where would you like to be looking for such opportunities, would you be looking for, because then that will give them an opportunity to tell them that whether you want to look at such opportunities in India or in the US or somewhere else in some other parts of the world. And if they specifically ask you that, then you can tell them that yes, I would like to come back to India and look for such opportunities. But don't start your answers saying that I would like to come back to India. If they ask you why do you want to do a master's, talk in terms of the career opportunities that you want. Now, again, if the visa officer asks you a very specific question, like would you like to use your CPT or OPT and gain experience in the US or work in the US after your master's or during your internship, summer or during the summer, would you like to work in the US? You can say yes to that, but don't just say yes and end your answer there. You will have to say that, like for example, in if I take a Madhurya's case, and if the visa officer asks, would you like to do an internship or would you like to do a look for full-time opportunities on the OPT after your masters? A good answer would be yes. If I get to do something, since I'm interested in the supply chain domain, if I get to get a, I mean, work as an intern or maybe full-time post my masters in the supply chain or operations domain in one of the larger companies, say maybe like an Amazon or probably some other company, whichever is his dream company. He can mention names. Even if you don't mention names, it's fine. But you will have to tell them that yes, only if I get an opportunity to work in the area of supply chain or operations or something related to analytics that would help manage the retail industry or something that, so it should be something related to the degree that you have done. Very important. And you have to mention that I would take up opportunities to work in the summer or during my OPT only if I get a job which is relevant to the program that I'm studying. Don't just say yes, because if you say yes and end your answer there, it basically means that you are open to taking any opportunity that you would get. So you have to be very specific here in saying that yes, if I get to work in so and so domain, then definitely I would take up such opportunities. And if I and then again, if you're talking of the OPT, you also have to mention that I would do this only for a year. That is up to a year. So don't say that yes, I would. So two things you have to keep in mind. If you're talking of the CPT and OPT at any point in time, it is okay to say that you will take up an opportunity to work as an intern on the CPT and full time on the OPT. But first thing is that it should be in a domain that is relevant to the program that you are done. And second thing is it would be only, I mean, CPT is of course for the summer, but OPT would be for a maximum period of 1 year only, not beyond that, or not like permanently kind of work in the US in that domain. So these are things that you should be very thorough about. And then after that, you would say you would come back to India. After you finish your OPT, you would come back to India and take up a job in India. or then maybe like he Madhurya wants to say that I would like to start something on my own. In this, I'm exploring those options. That is also absolutely fine. Whatever you say, if you say that after that I would like to come and join my family business, provided that family business has something to do with the degree that you're going to, you can say that as well. Alright. Any questions on this so far?
Jay, I have one question.
Yeah.
If we are planning to take sabbatical from our current job for suppose 2 years, so
Yeah.
in that case, how should we frame our answer?
Then you
Considering
say
if they
that
ask,
after I have taken you say that I've taken a sabbatical from my work, and after I finish my job, I'm coming and joining my company back.
okay, yeah, yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? Okay. Let's move on now about the funds part of it, right? So the visa officer, like as I said before, is not going to check your documents, but they will be asking you how do you plan to pay for your education. Now, when someone asks you how do you plan to pay for your education, you give them an answer. Like for example, you don't start talking about numbers in the sense I have so much, my parents have so much money in the bank, or you first tell them uh, how do you plan to pay. Either there are, and generally in most cases there are only two options that students use. Either they use or rather three, their own funds if you have been working, saving money and all that. uh, Part of it can come from your own funds, part of it can come from parents, or and the other part is education loans. And of course if you have some scholarships and all that, if you have a fully funded scholarship from the university, it shows up on your I-20. Obviously in that case the visa officer is not going to ask you this question. But if you don't have a fully funded scholarship from the university, this question is going to come, and how do you plan to pay for your education. Now at this moment the visa officer is not bothered about getting into the details of how much money you have, whether it is really sufficient or not, whether I have heard stories about this. I don't know where this number comes from, but you have to show 1.5 times of your I-20 amount. You should have that much money. So my answer to this is it doesn't really matter, right? So the visa officer wants to know where the money is going to come from. And realistically, if you see, if you look at any master's degree, depending on where the which university and which place it is, uh, the average cost of the master's degree, including your living and all that, an Indian student spends somewhere around 50 to 65 lakhs, assuming that you get no funding, no student jobs, no internships during the program. Ideally, 50 to 65 lakhs is an average cost that you might spend on your master's. I mean, this is the realistic number. So all of you should be prepared to I mean, not just from a visa point of view, but actually also, this is the money that you will be spending on your education. So you should be very thorough that where is this money going to come from? Because it is when once you reach the US, it is not that it is not just, you can't be just paper money. In the sense, when I say paper money, it can't be just something that is there on some bank statement, but you will have to actually pay the fees, right? So either your parents have to pay, or the loan has to pay, or someone else has to pay. Right? You can't just show proof of funds. You will have to actually transfer money to the university's account. You will need money in your account in the US to pay for your I mean, food, groceries, rent, all that, utilities and all that. So you will need actual money. So my recommendation is have your plan in place, in the sense you should know actually where your money is coming from. Forget the visa officer, right? It doesn't matter what you tell the visa officer, but the first step is to know where are your fees coming from. Because if you don't have a plan, you might end up in serious trouble maybe in the month of August, when you actually leave the country and you have no idea where the money is coming from, and the money doesn't come, you might have to come back, right? So first thing, that when you start planning for your finances, you discuss with your parents, or whoever is your sponsor, and have absolute clarity in terms of, okay, yes, first semester ka fees dad is paying, or first semester ka fees the loan is paying, and dad is going to give me money for my living expenses, or mom is going to pay from her money, her bank account. So my first step would be to have clarity within you and your family. And then the second thing is, when the visa officer asks, there could be only three answers that you can give. How do you plan to pay for an education? Either you say, now, if your majority of the funding is coming from an education loan, you first say that, okay, most of the funding for my master's is going to come from an education loan, and partly my parents are also willing to pay for my education. If 100% of your funding is going to come from an education loan, and you're not going to take any money from your parents, and if this is a fact, right? If that is a fact, then you say, I have taken an education loan, and my entire funding for the education is going to come from an education loan. If your parents are going to pay completely for your education, then just say my parents are going to pay for my education. So whatever is your situation, you just tell that to the visa officer. Again, there is no right or wrong here. Many times you will hear people and students saying that you should not tell that I'm taking an education loan, or it cannot be 100% education loan, it cannot be 100% parents, or it cannot, all those kind of things. So don't worry about that. Your funding can be whatever is your situation, you be honest about it, don't worry about it. Confidently tell the visa officer that that this is where the money is going to come from. The visa officer really doesn't care where the money is going to come from. They are only trying to assess whether you really have the money or not, or whether you have the capabilities to pay or not. Because the last thing that they want is you running out of money uh, while you are studying in the US. So they just want to know whether you have a reliable source of funds to pay for your education, and that is why mostly loans are very reliable, because wherever your loan is from, maybe it's from a Bank of India or HDFC, Credila or ICICI or wherever it is, they will not really um, not pay you. In the sense, if your loan is sanctioned and approved, like if HDFC Credila has approved your loan, or Bank of India has approved your loan, for the next 2 years they will pay you. If it's a 50 lakh loan, up to 50 lakh they will definitely pay you. How they recover that money is a separate issue, right? That is not the visa officer's lookout either. That is between you and the bank or the lender, whoever it is, right? And the visa officer really doesn't care about it. They just want to know whether you will have sufficient funds to pay for your education. They don't really care about how you will recover or how you will pay the bank back. Who will pay, whether you will pay, parents will pay, all that. I have heard, you will hear arguments from other students or some counselors on YouTube, other videos saying that if you tell the visa officer that I am paying from an education loan, the visa officer will think that since the student is taking an education loan, he or she will definitely work in the US to recover that or repay that loan. Okay. Uh, true, definitely. But that argument holds the other way also, is that just because you're taking money from your parents or spending your own hard earned money does not mean that you will not work in the US to repay or recover that money. So your education is an investment, right? And any logical person, and assuming you all are logical people, and so is the visa officer, will try to earn that money somehow to get your return on investment back. So, and there is nothing wrong in that. I mean, you're not going to go get a degree and then say, okay, I'm done. I've educated myself. Now I'll probably just do nothing in life. That is not going to happen. If you're spending 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs, or whatever X amount of money on your education, you will try to recover it by either, starting a business, probably start most likely getting a job, or whatever way. Then there is absolutely nothing wrong in that. Okay. 1 minute. So don't worry about all these things. So don't. So, and that is why what happens is many times students try to hide the fact that they have taken education loans, and then try to bring in some uncle or someone else as your sponsor to show money, and that only weakens your arguments, because the visa officer is not going to be very convinced. Why will some uncle or some dad's friend or someone else in the family going to pay you to fund your education, uh, because they don't really understand why would some third person pay you for no reason at all. And then students try to argue that my uncle has money, or my aunt has a lot of money, and they love me as their children, and all those kind of answers, and that is where things start getting a little complicated in the visa interviews. So don't hide the fact that you have taken loans if you have. If your parents are sufficient, have financially strong enough to pay for your education, and you are actually not taking a loan, tell the visa officer, I'm not taking, I mean, my parents are going to pay. There is absolutely wrong in that, nothing wrong in that. One thing that you should now, when uh, visa officers are not accountants, okay. So there have been many times, many a classic mistake that students make for some reason, that say your parents have put money in your account. Okay. Your account today holds, or maybe whatever it is, you have 50 lakhs in savings and fixed deposits or shares or whatever it is in your own account, right? And you are going to use that money to pay for your education. Now, legally, if it is in your account, I understand that is your money, right? As an adult, if it is in your account, it is your money. Now, just because your parents have put in, they cannot take it back. If that is not a joint account. But just because the money is in your account, you don't tell the visa officer that I am going to pay for my own education, and you are 22 years old, and there is no way to justify where have you earned that money, right? So if that money has been put in your parents, you just tell the visa officer, my parents are going to pay for my education. Okay. If it comes to a point, and that that 0.1% where the visa officer says show me your bank statement, it is okay to show your bank statement, right? It doesn't The visa officer is not going to question. Okay, they are just wanting to see where the money is. They are interested in the source of the funds, not whose account it is in, right? So whether it is in your own account or father's account or in which form, that really doesn't matter. But technically it is your father's money or mother's money who has given it to you, and put it in your account. In that case, tell that the parent is going to pay, or whoever is the earning member of the family, they are going to pay. Again, if the money is in your parents account, mother's account, or father's account, but your mother doesn't have a source of income, or father doesn't have a source of income, or mother is the actual earning member of the family, say my mom is going to pay for my education. It doesn't matter whose account the money is. So don't make those kind of mistakes, or getting too much into the accounting aspect of it. The money is in my account, uh, or sometimes students say I am going to pay most of it and little is going to come from my parents, because 40 lakhs are already in my account. That is fine, you might have put it in your parents might have put it, but still it is the parents who are going to pay, is what your answer should be. Any And then, yes, if you so now again, if you say that your parents are going to pay, they generally will not ask you how much money is there in your account, but what are your parents' income and what do your parents do? These are questions that would follow. Also, if they ask you how much funds are available with you or your family, give a overall number. I mean, don't get into details of X account has so much money, or say my State Bank of India has 10 lakhs or something. You can just say totally we have 45 lakhs in my account. You can just make that overall blanket statement, and that 45 lakhs can include, say, savings, fixed deposits. You could include your shares, PF, PPF, or whatever you want to include. Like, you don't have to give a split up of that. You can say my parents have investments and savings of around 45 lakhs, plus I have an education loan of 30 lakhs, and this is where the money for my education is going to come from. So give very simple and answers which are easy to understand, rather than going right jumping into the complexities of where the funds are and how much funds are. You should know where the funds are, but you don't have to get into the complexities in the very beginning. That is what. Keep things simple when you're trying to explain it as if that person is a layman, or some random person asking you who is going to pay, parents are going to pay, or the loan is going to pay. As simple as. Any questions so far on this part?
Jay, if I don't say that my parents are not going to pay for my education, like if I don't mention that, and if I say it's education loan and me, do I get to answer? Like, do they ask me this question? What my parents would do, and what are my parents' income? What is my parents' income?
Generally, no, they should not ask, right?
Okay, yeah,
Right. So if you say, but then again, when you say education loan and me, that me part should be the money that you have saved by working over the past 2 years.
yeah.
Ideally, that is the source of that me part, right? So you can
Okay,
say I've been working for the past 3 years, 4 years, and I have saved some funds of around 15 lakhs or whatever it is, and plus I have an education loan of say 60 lakhs, and that is what this is where my funding for my education is going to come from,
okay, yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, moving on. Again, these are very common questions. How much funds should I show? Ideally, there is no fixed number on this. Whatever you think is required for your education, realistically, again, not 1.5 times I-20, twice the amount of I-20. It doesn't really matter, right? Because as I said, nobody is going to see what you want to show. There is no document that the visa officer is going to check to assess your funding, kind of thing. Um, Again, what documents are accepted? Any document is accepted. There is no again rule that you have to carry so and so set of documents. So wherever your funds are, right? If for example you tell me today, um, let's consider the case where someone is saying that I'm my parents are going to pay for my education, and I am taking an education loan, right? So if I ask you where is the education loan from, and you say my education loan is from Bank of India, and if I ask you can you prove it, there could be various ways to prove it. Now, unfortunately, you cannot carry electronic equipment inside, but maybe hopefully a few years down the line they let you do that. But you can show any form of anything that is on paper. You can show the visa officer. Now, this could also mean that. Like sometimes what happens is for whatever reasons your loan is in process, uh, or you don't have the official document for the loan. It is absolutely fine. Maybe the bank has just sent you an email confirmation. You can carry a print of that email saying that this is an email confirmation that the bank has sent me, saying that my loan has been approved. Final formality, because some banks do that. Now most of the banks have started giving issuing loan letters, but earlier some banks used to issue only provisional sanction letters, which used to say that your final loan will be sanctioned provided you submit a copy of your visa. Right? So many times students used to freak out because now you don't have a loan official loan letter. It used to just be an email or a small two-line kind of letter that they used to give you, saying that the final loan letter would be issued on proof of visa. But those letters, even if your bank is doing that, it is absolutely fine. You an email printout is also okay, right? You don't need that, but even if you have that, that is fine. Now coming to funds from your parent side or your side, wherever your funds are, you can carry proof of that. The proofs that you carry don't have to be certified or attested by anybody. Like for example, if you are saying that you have money in your bank account, if today you tell me that okay, I have 10 lakhs in my bank account, how would you prove it? I mean, one way is that you will show me the balance on your phone, right? But since you can't carry your phone inside, one simple way is to just download a balance statement. I mean, just download your recent statement, and it will tell me that there are 10 lakhs in the account, right? So just download that pichle 1 month ka statement, and it will show that there is 10 lakhs in the account. If you were saying that okay, I have 40 lakhs invested in fixed deposits, either the bank has issued you a fixed deposit certificate, which is like on paper they have printed and given it to you. If the FDs were booked online, or some banks now, even if you have booked it on pen and paper, you can go online and check on your this thing, and a simple print of that. Most banks, if you have net banking facility, and I mean, and most banks will give you a print of your fixed deposit summary that you can straight away print on the from download from the from your net banking account, and you could carry a print of that. Again, these documents don't have to be um, attested by the bank, or you don't have to go and get a stamp from it, or anybody for that matter. No notaries, no attestations are required. So any uh, document that shows that you have funds, it is fine. If you're saying that I have my shares, my parents are going to liquidate some of their equity investments or mutual funds, any statement that shows your mutual fund statements, or that okay, your mutual fund value is say today 40 lakhs or 50 lakhs, or your equity investments are worth 25 lakhs, it is absolutely fine. Just take a print from your demat account, and that is also absolutely okay. What you generally should not show is talk about properties or gold, unless it is gold in dematted formats and all those. But if you're taking a letter from your jewelers, which would be, they give gold evaluation certificates and all that, or property evaluations done and all that, because most likely telling the visa officer that I will sell my property uh, and pay for my education does not make sense, unless you can take loans on those properties and all that. But generally selling properties are not something that happens overnight. So any other financial investment is absolutely fine. Preferably don't talk about your properties and gold valuations and all that. CA statements are not required. You don't need any CA or any affidavit made. So just don't waste your time and money and energy behind getting all these documents. Keep as little documents as possible from your side. Don't spend time collecting documents. Nobody's going to look at them to begin with. And the more documents you start collecting, I mean, you just waste your energy behind that, which is not really required. So again, coming to the point, can some relative sponsor you? If your relative is actually sponsoring you, you should have a very strong reason why that relative is paying for you. If you are just thinking that a relative is sponsoring you when they are not, then I would avoid saying that. Talk about your parents and loan. It doesn't mean that your parents should have so much funds in the account, but if they are financially capable of paying for your education, tell that your parents are only going to pay for your education. Don't try to bring in a relative just because you think that the relative is rich enough. Sometimes that only messes up things, because visa officers find it slightly difficult to believe why a third person, or why someone who is not a very immediate family is going to pay for your education. If you have any questions, just interrupt me and ask. And these are some things about which students are again really worried about. Um,
I do have a question regarding
yeah.
regarding the accommodation thing, sir.
Accommodation. See again. Yeah, I'll come to that. Questions students have are worried about accommodation. I mean, some people are worried about whether flights. So if you have booked your flights, and the visa officer asked, "Have you booked your flight?" Say yes. If you have not booked a flight yet, I would say book it, because otherwise your flight rates will go up. So whatever is the honest answer for that, give it. It does not really matter. Nobody is going to accept or reject your visa because you have booked a flight, or because you have booked an accommodation, or you have not yet booked an accommodation, or you have sibling in the US. Unless that sibling is involved in some illegal activities, you don't need to worry about it. These things really don't matter. Whatever is your honest situation, say that. I would not, don't try to complicate your life by trying to think what is the right answer for that, and unnecessary telling lies when it's not really required. So if you have, I mean, if you have booked an accommodation, say yes. If you have not booked, say no. It's as simple as that. And sometimes these questions really don't matter, because what happens is, see, the visa officers have to, I mean, you consider the visa officer's position. That person has to stand there and interview so maybe 100 people in a day, ask the same set of questions. Sometimes just to make, and then what they see, it is their job to, once you pass them the passport, and they'll ask you for your passport and I-20, then they have to verify whether that I-20 is genuine. So ideally they'll be putting, I mean, scanning that I-20, which has a barcode kind of thing, into their system. Or sometimes that barcode may not work, they'll have to type in that this thing. The system takes time to respond. They'll have to check whether you have paid the service fee. So basically you're standing there in front of that person for 1 or 2 minutes. this person has to make some conversation with you. Sometimes just for the sake of it, they might ask you some questions. It could be sometimes there have been stray questions like, maybe uh, there is some weird logo on your shirt at that moment. They ask you, what does that logo on your shirt mean? Doesn't mean that you have to really be worried about that, and then you go and post it online and everybody is worrying about the logos on their shirt, kind of thing. So don't worry about all those things. Sometimes just to make conversation, the visa officer might ask you something just randomly. Like sometimes they look at your passport and they see, oh, you are from so and so city. If the visa officer has been there on a vacation, they might say, I have been there on a vacation, it was very nice. Or they can ask you something about the city that you are living in, because they plan to go there. So it's just going to be a very random discussion. So these questions you don't need to really think about, worry about, or even plan for it. If the visa officer does ask you something randomly out of the blue, just answer it. So, and that is where these questions come, right? Have you booked your tickets? Have you, uh, probably booked your accommodation? Sometimes they ask you, do you plan to come back to India during the winter break? That is during the Christmas time. Do you plan to come back to India? So these questions really don't make or break your visa decisions. It's like they are just because you are standing there, the visa officer has to spend 2 minutes with you. They ask you these questions. So don't worry if you actually plan to come back to India in winter, say yes. If you plan to go to somewhere else, maybe you're going to a university in New York, but you want to go to California in the winter because it's nicer there. You say that no, I plan to go to LA. I want to visit Hollywood for the winter. Say that if that is your genuine plan. But so these things don't matter. So don't think too much about these questions.
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Hmm.
Uh, this is regarding funds only. So, the situation is I have the funds that are required for paying education fees in my account. But for a backup, I am taking loan. But that is still in the process. And I have the visa interview scheduled on 31st of May. So, considering the worst scenario, if the loan still is in process at that time also, then what should I tell?
So say I'll be taking an education loan.
Okay.
I have applied. So has your loan been sanctioned? If they ask you, you say no, not
Okay.
yet. I have applied. I am considering two or three options. I mean, I don't know why it is not sanctioned, but if you are already evaluating two or three options, you can say
Yeah.
I am evaluating two or three options. I
Mhm.
have applied to this, and then I might go with the ones. Most of them are they are almost sanctioned, but I will go with the one that is offering me the. I haven't finalized on any because I'll just I'm waiting for some other decisions to come, and whoever offers me the best rate, I'll go ahead with them.
And it's okay to tell them that I'm taking loan for a backup option, or it's not necessary.
Backup, I don't understand what is the backup thing here, because if you have money only to pay your fees, to pay for your
Uh-huh.
food and living, you will need money,
Uh-huh.
right? So see,
Right.
when you're planning for your finances, you should go with there is no backup, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
uh, your planning should be that there should be money to pay for your education and living,
Okay.
because that is what you will
Understood.
spend. Somebody has to pay for your living, whether your job will pay or a scholarship will pay. Right? I mean, a
Yeah.
student job will pay or a scholarship will pay is something which is undecided, right?
Right. Right.
Right. But the visa officer wants to know, because, and when I say undecided, in the sense you can tell the visa officer that a student job will pay and scholarship will pay, provided you have a confirmation about it right now,
Hmm.
right? So you cannot tell something which is very uncertain, because you may not. What happens if you don't get a scholarship? What happens if you don't get the what do you say, the student job that you're looking for, right?
Right.
Then it should not happen that okay, fee to bhar diya but khane ke liye paisa nahi.
Right.
You
Right.
don't want to be in that situation. So ideally, so you take a loan, and realistically also get that loan sanctioned. If you don't use
Hmm.
it, great. Or even maybe you get a scholarship and you don't use part of your savings also, that is also fine. But from a planning point of view, you keep that backup.
So, like, it's okay to say then it's still in process if that
Ha, ha.
is the case.
Yeah, you can say that.
Sure.
But you should know where you have applied, which bank, how much is the amount that you have applied for, and all those things. If you applied to two or three options, you say that.
Mhm. Right, right.
So again, in case your loan doesn't get sanctioned by the 31st, when
Mhm.
maybe the visa is on 31st, don't worry about it. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
Understood.
don't really freak out about it. But you should know how much you have applied for and where you have applied for.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. I think I'll close this part. Yeah. So any more questions? Anyway, I mean, in tomorrow day after, I'll start connecting with all of you.
So
Some
I
of you
did,
are
sir.
busy with your work.
I have a question. Last question.
No, no, you can
So
ask more. Bolo.
yeah. So if being asked about home ties, so what other answers should we give except the common ones like I have my family and parents or friends, something
See,
like that?
as a student visa, they will not ask you about home ties. I can guarantee you that. That home ties question, I'll tell you where this home ties question comes. It comes basically in terms of for tourist visas. Okay, that is one of the reasons. So nobody is going as a student at your age. Nobody is going to ask you about your home ties. Nobody expects you to come and stay back at your home with your parents. Okay, so that is the first thing because that is not what a student is expected to do. I'll tell you where this whole concept of home ties comes. US visas, when they reject a visa, right, and it can be any visa rejection. It is a work visa rejection, it is a tourist visa rejection, it is a student visa rejection, or for that matter, any. There are artist visas and all that. They have only one visa rejection letter that they give, and that is the 214B letter. They don't have specific different letters for different categories, right? So if the visa officer feels that you don't really understand about your, I mean, the program that you are going to, could not answer why are you going for your masters or why specifically in industrial engineering, and that is the reason why they reject. They will still give you that same letter. If they feel that you don't have the funds, they will still give you that same letter. Or for whatever reason they want to reject the visa, they will give you only one letter, and that is not just for student visas, that is for all visas. And the 214B visas, the 214B rejection letter has this wordings which says that it could not demonstrate intent to return back and all those kind of things. It's a standard letter. You can search on the net, you will find the content. So that is where when someone sees that letter, they feel that okay, I need to, my visa was rejected because I could not demonstrate ties to my home country. As a student visa, you are not expected to demonstrate ties to your home country. So first thing, you don't worry about that. But if you still, I mean, of course, yes, your reason to, after your student visa expires, which means that after you have done your education, maybe you used your OPT or not used your OPT, you are supposed to return back to India. Your reason to return back to India should not be that because you love your parents or you want to be close to your parents. That can be secondary. Your first reason is that you will have better career opportunities in India with a master's degree in the US and with maybe the experience that you have gained during your internship and the OPT. You will find much better career opportunities in India than what you would find without those. So it will help you grow your career back in India, and that is why, that is the only reason why you should want to come back to India. So if they ask you why do you want to come back to India, this should be your answer. And then you, if you want, you can say, and additionally, I have my family also here, so I prefer being close to them. But that should be the secondary reason. The for primary reason, don't put your family as the primary reason for coming back to India.
All right, sir. Thank you.
So a question here.
Hmm.
So I have this OFC appointment in Mumbai and visa interview in Hyderabad. So uh, it doesn't affect, right? Means the
No, no, no,
confirm.
it doesn't affect. कहीं भी
Okay.
जाओ तो.
And can we like reschedule the visa interview
When
in Mumbai?
dates in Mumbai open, but then again, see, when you reschedule it, right? You can't
Uh-huh.
reschedule only one appointment. You will have to, yeah, ideally both your appointments get rescheduled. In the sense, you will have to start. When you click on the reschedule button, it will again show you the OFC appointment calendar. So you have to book an OFC appointment calendar, OFC date, and then again book a this thing.
Understood.
Yeah. So, but then again, there is a limit on the number of times you can reschedule. Okay.
Okay.
I think you can reschedule it only 2 times.
Okay.
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 Now, after you have rescheduled it the second time also, if you want to reschedule it again, then the only option is you cancel your appointment and rebook a new one.
Mhm.
Now, the difference between rescheduling and canceling is that when you go to reschedule your appointment, your old appointment does not get cancelled until a new one is booked. So, in case you go to reschedule, click on the reschedule button and you try to reschedule one, but you don't find any dates for the OFC or the visa or both, right? So, you found an OFC date, but the visa date is not available. Your old appointment is still intact, it will not get cancelled, right? But you can do that only 2 times. The third time, you will not be allowed to reschedule it because you already rescheduled it 2 times. Uh, then if you still want to change your appointment, then the only option is you first cancel your appointment, which means that your
Mhm.
appointment gets cancelled. मतलब पहला वाला खत्म गया, and then you try to book a new one. You don't have to pay the visa fee again. Right? If you have not attended your visa interview, you don't have, that visa fee will be valid till 1 year.
Okay.
Okay, so don't. So it's not that you have to pay the fees again, but then when you cancel it, those dates are gone. And if you
Right.
unfortunately don't find the new date, um, you will basically then have to wait till new dates open. That's the only disadvantage in cancelling and rescheduling. Yeah, so Laukik, yesterday afternoon for a short while, some dates opened up. They might open up again, maybe probably next weekend, or keep checking in the morning once and evening once every day. But if you didn't get it, don't worry about it. They'll keep from now onwards periodically. Visa dates will keep opening up. Generally, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, visa dates open up more in bulk. Other days also they open up, but in small numbers. And again, try to see. I mean, again, going to Hyderabad is not a problem, but it's just that means you will have to spend on your travel and all that. So if that is not very convenient, I would say just cancel the appointment and wait for new appointments. If you don't want to do that, if you think you're
Mhm.
okay going to Hyderabad, go ahead.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, in case
Okay.
people, so there is someone who is booking in a different city, right? I would say book both in that same city and book consecutive days if possible.
Mm.
I just that otherwise you will, I mean, you go once, you go to maybe Delhi once for your this thing, then you go to Chennai for another date. Travel, you will have to figure out whether that travel is convenient and affordable for you. If you do both at maybe all consecutive days, you can just stay for one day and then you don't have to travel twice. That's the only advantage. But otherwise, if, as long as you are willing to go and attend, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, any other questions now? So what I was telling you guys was that maybe in the coming few days I'll get in touch with you about your whenever your dates are. Maybe before, um, keep me updated on your dates. I would definitely want to talk to you, each one of you, one on one, before your visa interview. Uh, I mean, not the OFC, but before you attend the actual visa interview date. So, in case I miss it, don't just neglect it. I would strongly recommend that you have a small discussion with me, one on one discussion we'll schedule. Even if it's a phone call, that is fine, but I would just like to have for my own comfort level, and I just want to understand whether your thought process is in the right direction, because there is so much stuff on the internet. Most of the time, my discussion with students is to make them unlearn stuff that they have read on the internet. And that is a big task that I find. in telling you that whatever you have read on the internet is not true. Don't fall for rumors and all that. Be cool about it and be honest about your this thing. And the OFC is just a formality. You will only have to take. They will only take your photograph and fingerprints and get leave you out there. One thing that you just as a final closing thing, just make sure that your DS-160 card name is exactly as on your passport. If there is some mistake there, then correct it now. Otherwise, you will unnecessarily waste time. I mean, they will. It's not that you lose money, but then they'll cancel that appointment and tell you to come back again. If they are sometimes they let you correct it and get it, but it will only cause a lot of hassle. But so just make sure your name on the DS-160 is exactly. There are no spelling mistakes, both in terms of your name and your passport number. That is the only thing that matters. Your name, date of birth, and passport. These three things should be perfectly as on your passport. It doesn't matter what it is on the other documents. And if you don't have a surname, then you have to put FNU as your first name, and whatever is there in your passport in the given name, uh, you have to put it in the surname. So just remember that. And again, Indian passports don't have a field for middle name. So if your first name is your first name and your middle name, then everything goes in the given name. So don't try to think that, okay, this is not my given name or not my first name. As given on your passport, whatever is there in your given name on the passport should be in the given name on the DS-160, and whatever is there on the surname should be in there in the surname. As the spelling and all that should be as on the passport. If you have different documents, doesn't matter. Address on the passport doesn't matter. So don't worry about all those things. Okay, fine then. We will conclude today's. Any questions before we conclude? Chinmay, you can pay by credit card when I don't understand when it's showing a different banking name in the sense.
Like sir, it is showing some different bank name of US. I don't I'm not recollecting it, but some NF
It shows VFS credit card. It's a
yes sir,
VFS.
VFS.
VFS is not a bank name. VFS is basically the center that manages all your visa processing in the back end. In the sense, collecting your passports, couriering them, and all that, right, is managed by VFS. So the money that
Okay
you
sir.
pay also goes. It is not basically. It is not the bank name of the credit card. Any credit card will work. The VFS basically means you are going to make the payment to VFS using a credit card.
Okay sir.
Okay, so if you see your credit card statement or your debit card statement, it might show that in many cases it might show depending on how your bank interprets that. But in some cases it might show that the money has been paid to VFS and not to the US consulate directly. So ideally VFS basically collects all the money and then sends it to the consulate. And all your passport courier, delivery, and all those things are managed by VFS. So VFS is a
Okay
center
sir.
that does all this. I mean, not only for US visas, but most of the visas in India are managed by the center called VFS. So that is why it says VFS credit card, which means that the payments are going to be managed by a VFS payment gateway.
Okay sir.
Okay, so
Thank
you
you.
can pay by UPI, you can pay by credit card, you can go and pay cash. And I mean, I think there are only Axis Bank and Bank of America that accept cash, and there's one more bank, I think, the RUK or something like that. Yeah.
Yes sir. Thank you.
Okay. By then we will connect again on visas, maybe some probably first week of June. But in then by then hopefully some of you are done with your visa interviews. And before your visa interviews, do definitely connect with me. Keep me posted on when your visas are.
Jay sir, I had a doubt.
Huh.
If I could ask.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Sir, from yesterday, actually, I've not been able to log in on my Travel Docs website. Like, I just created an account,
Huh.
and after that, I've been trying from last night, and it's just not going. It's just not being able to log in.
No, when you say not
Sometimes it
going
gives
to
a
log in, this is
like
what happens.
connection timeout.
Huh? No, I mean, what
Like
happens?
once I enter my password and the captcha,
Ah,
yeah, that's what. Once I enter that password captcha, once I got an error like web page is not available. For the first time, actually, I was able to log in. I went to the profile section, and in that there was a small error, like some dependent error. This is a dependent profile, and after that it got stuck. And after that, like for the past 12 hours, I'm trying to log in. It's just not going through. Like once I click on the login button, nothing happens.
see,
Either there's a web page not found error or connection timeout.
okay. First thing is that the Visa site now, if you're using Microsoft Edge browser and all that, then it doesn't work properly. So don't use that. If try in Chrome, update your Chrome and clear cookies and try once. Sometimes that helps. Uh, if it still doesn't work, then the only option.
Okay.
But see, generally on weekends these problems happen. By tomorrow also, if it doesn't work, then maybe you will have to send a mail to
Okay.
their help center, and they'll help you with it. They'll maybe if there's something at their end, then they will solve it for you. But before that, you try using Chrome and probably
Hmm.
just clear your browser cookies and check once temporary files and cookies and all that, and update your Chrome to the latest and see.
So can the account be, is the account locked or something? Because it's like some people say it's locked for some
It will give
24
you a
hours or
message
something.
saying that your account is temporarily locked.
No, I didn't get that
So
message
if it
actually.
is locked now, it gives you an error message saying that your account is temporarily locked.
Mhm.
So if it doesn't clearly give you an error message
Okay.
and it just says connection timed out, it could be either a browser problem or it could be something from their end.
Hmm. Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.